Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another interview with an awesome tournament that is the Online League Series, the 22nd edition, and their 22nd champion in none other than Sorry. How are you doing, Sorry? How are you feeling, mate?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling great. How are you?
I am doing great as well, and I am glad that we finally get to interview as well because when I started this series, I had my eyes on you because you are usually topping tournaments most of the time, so I'm glad I finally get to interview as well.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here. I usually make top cuts, but I don't win first place a lot, so it's not always it happens.
You should have a chit chat with our what am I. He usually is in the same dilemma.
Yeah. I make top cut like the first game in top cut and I'm out.
The X0 curse, I think it's most of the time people that are flying straight X0 and then they get out first round.
Yeah, get unlucky.
But this wasn't an unlucky run because you won this time, and we're going to review a bit your decks. First and foremost, it has been there since the beginning of the game, since closed beta. We didn't even have closed beta, we had open beta altogether, and it's Fiora Shen. I discussed a bit with Ultraman previously in an interview that this deck is very stable. So is this the only reason that you brought Fiora Shen to the tournament, or is it something more?
I personally love Fiorashan. I've played it since forever. Like I usually play Fiorashan just because I'm safe on this deck. I like this deck. And it does well against FistF. And I'm confident playing the mirror matchup because I have experience on the deck.
Yeah, and I think we also discussed previously in other interviews, or if not just on the stream, that you do expect a lot of VSTF. So if someone is going to bring a VSTF lineup and something like Fiora Shen or something else, and the other person goes for the same strategy, VSTF, Shen Fiora, and another pile, you might want to be comfortable into playing the mirror match because that can award you a win if you do get the first deck queued wrong and your opponent just goes for the mirror. If they feel more comfortable into it, if they go into it, you might lose.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Also, it does well against Lissandra Trundle. I think it's slightly favored for Fiorashan.
It also depends, I think, on the draws because it is not a deck that can break very hard for no reason. One thing that I would love to direct our attention to is the repost Spirit's Refuge spot because people, I think, are not really fans of Spirit's Refuge, or at least they are playing 0 to 1 and they are more inclined to play more repost. So why this switch in your case?
I'm not a fan of Spirit Refuge. I only ran it because I wanted to be able to survive against Fistia for a little while longer because you don't need repost against Fistia. So the main goal was to just win against Fistia with Fiorashan. And against this Trundle, I already have the advantage if I have like a massive board. I already have the advantage. My focus with Fiorashan is to beat Fistia and this Trundle mainly. It's kind of bad in the mirror, I guess. But yeah, still you can beat the mirror if you get good trades. And
Right.
the one repost makes it like your opponent has to always play around it if you have one repost in the deck, you know?
Yeah. I do realize that is happening quite a lot. There is that meme when people are disrespecting cards that are free offs but are respecting cards that are on one offs hard. And I do think this is very much available in the tournament setting. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right, you're right. Also, Fiora's champion spell is also a repost. So if you have a Fiora on board, they also have to respect that.
And Fiora is usually on board more than would people like to see her in that matchup. We see this tech being played more and more. This one of Laurent Chevalier. We had Geras that explained this, that it's just a worse River Shaper, that a River Shaper is that good that you are willing to play a worse version of it. What is your take on the Laurent Chevalier?
I actually only run it just as a meme, to be honest. Usually I run the 3 mana drop, the 2/4. I forgot his name.
The Laurent Protégé.
Yeah, I run that usually for the FistF because it's cheaper and it trades with everything that FistF has, the units. But I wanted to try it out, see how it feels. Most of my games I didn't draw it, so I didn't know how it felt. But yeah, I just tried it as a meme, to be honest.
And how did the other version go? The one that was playing Laurent Protégé, the 2-4 with Challenger?
It's very annoying if for FISTF players. It's so annoying. Like if you don't draw, it's basically a Fiora if you don't draw your Fiora. It can't trade with their units. And if you have a Shen, you can protect it. You can remove Twisted Fate, you can remove Fez, you can remove Zap, you can remove Burblefish. It's so good against FISTF.
Uh, One of my last curiosities, one of my last two curiosities is, to be fair, why Bristol formation? Because I think outside of the mirror is pretty much useless. So do you think if you are bringing Bristol formation that you are facing the mirror a lot, or what is the take on Bristol formation?
You have to have, in my opinion, you have to have a bright steel formation in the deck if you're gonna play against the mirror. If you don't have a bright, at least one, if you don't have it, your opponent will not play around it, your opponent will not care about it. It makes everything so awkward for you. Like, for example, against Watamai, he didn't have bright steel formation in his deck. When I was playing Braum Vlad, I just went for value trades. I went for units more on my hand. I created more units, and it made it so easier for me to win the game late game because I didn't have to worry about the formation.
Right, nice take on that. And one last question. People are really juggling with the concerted strike spot as well. They are going to 1, to 2. Like, this is the flex spot. Why are you going for 2?
I don't like having two concert strikes in my hand, and sometimes I draw a lot. I don't want to break pretty much with them, so like two is enough for me.
Right, I think the rest of the list is pretty stable. Golden Aegis, of course, the new broken card in the deck.
It's really good, yeah.
Like, some people call it the Aegis OTK because it is that powerful, especially I think with a Shen on the board, just play a Golden Aegis. If you have a board already built up, it's just game over on that turn.
And it can't be an oppified as well, so it's really good. If you're playing against Lee Sin, for example.
Yeah, people have dropped Relentless Pursuit for this Aegis OTK, for this Golden Aegis, and I do think that they are not really regretting. But moving forward to your next deck, this is a little bit spicy because you do not see it most of the time in the tournament setting. You do see it on ladder quite often though, and this is Shurima Overwhelm. What was the reasoning bringing this deck in a tournament setting?
This is Rico Rex's deck, so I'm gonna give him the credit. This is basically to win against Lissandra Trundle, and it's favored against Fiora Shen. So I'm pretty much targeting two decks, Lissandra Trundle and Fiora Shen with my lineup. And this Overwhelm deck does really, really well against Lissandra Trundle. They can't keep up with your deck, unless they have a really good hand and you kinda low roll.
Definitely. And would you bring the old Overwhelm Noxus? I do have this thing prying on my mind. Is this better than the old Overwhelm with Noxus?
I don't think I've ever played it. I think I played this a lot on ladder and it felt good. I scrimmed against Lissandra Trundle a lot, and it felt really good. Like most of my matchups, I was winning, and I brought it in a previous tournament, and it also performed well. So I just brought it. It was safe for me.
I think against Lissandra Trundle the main advantage is that one, you are an aggro deck, and two, you are a deck that can also go tall in terms of units, because starting turn 3 you already have more than 3 HP on your units. You have Avaros and Trapper, you start playing your 1-mana Yetis, your Ancient Yetis, and so on and so forth, and your opponent needs to play at least 2 cards if they want to deal with them, if they are Lissandra Trundle, or they need to commit hard removal like Vengeance or Ruination. So I think that is the main advantage of this deck.
Yeah, and you have card draw. You have two card. You have your Preservium, so you don't run out of gas. And Rune Runner is nice because of the spell shield. It's kind of annoying for them to remove it.
Yeah, I think the Rune Runner is by far the star of this deck. On 6, on 5, actually, I think it's the only card you would want to play. Would you want to play Ruined Runner over Sejuani, for example, on turn 6 if you had the option?
It depends on the board. It depends on the board. I can't like say. It depends on if I want to remove something annoying that my opponent has, I would drop Sejuani. If I, for example, have a Renekton on board, but I don't have a vulnerability or challenge ability, I'll drop a Seju. It depends on the board state, I guess.
I think this deck is pretty straightforward. You just drop your units, you curve out perfectly, or the most perfectly that you can. You are going to get mostly valuable trades because your units start to become beefier and beefier as the turn goes, and you just win. And most of the time, if that is not enough and the opponent can stabilize, a Battle Fury is anything you need.
Yeah, Fury can end the game. And also, if like they flash freeze, you can still Fury, and you still put more damage.
The thing is, how can people get a read on the Battle Furies? Because I think it's quite easy, but maybe they are missing something because some people are just not expecting the Battle Fury and are like, alright, he's attacking me with more than 8 mana open, it's obviously not a Battle Fury, and they just get punished because they do see it after.
It's very hard to like even play around it. The biggest counter to Battle Fury is removing the overwhelm units if you can, and keeping the units without a Battle Fury, without an overwhelm ability, because you need the overwhelm ability to push damage with Battle Fury. Like for example, when I was playing against Fiora Shan, I think it was Watamai. He opted to attack my Yeti, which doesn't have an overwhelm, the one from the trapper, just to kill the Yeti. So I don't. So he forces me to play the Fury on the Yeti. So he kind of made me waste 8 mana just so that I don't give the Fiora the win con. Because Fiora was 2 stacks. If she got the kill, she would be 3, and then he could barrier and win the game.
And how did you get out of that game after having to waste it?
The thing is, I was winning the game. Like I had a good board, but he was winning with his Fiora. He was going for the win condition. He played Sharp Sight, if I remember correctly, and went for my Yeti. So now his Fiora is a 6/6. He can kill the Yeti. I had 8 mana open. He knew I could possibly have a Fury. So I had a decision. Either I play the Fury, try to kill the Fiora, or I don't play the Fury. He kills my Yeti. Then he possibly plays Aegis, because I already had a read. In my mind, I was like, Watamai has 2 Aegis in his hand. He wants to play them this round, and he wants to win with Fiora. So, and he might have a repost. I don't know if he has a repost. He might have it, but regardless, if he doesn't have it, I win the game. If he has it, I'm gonna lose either way. Either I slap the Fury now, I win the game, or I don't slap it, I lose the game. So I just went for the Fury. He made me waste the Fury, and it was good for him. But at the same time, I removed the Fiora and pretty much dominated the game because my units were pretty massive compared to his.
And that's an interesting scenario that happened during the tournament. And the last deck that you have brought, it is something that everyone is glad that they finally see play in the competitive scene and actually won the tournament. It's the Braum Vladimir. So why and how the hell did you bring this deck? What made you bring it?
I was going through Twitter and I saw Panda posting, like Ice-T was posting about this deck so much. I'm like, it's bad, it's bad. And then Panda posted a tweet about it. So I'm like, fine, I'll check it out. And I think Fresh Lobster, the initial one I tried was Fresh Lobster refining it for ladder. So I played it. It felt good. It was actually on ladder. It was winning against Fistiaf. In the tournament, it had like, I think 40% win rate in the tournament against Fistiaf. Because I kind of tweaked it to be a little worse for Fistiaf, but a little better for Fiorashan. Usually I don't run the Alpha Vault Claw. I run the other 6-drop, the Verena. I think that's her name. Let me check her name really quick.
Oh, Scar Mother Verena.
Yeah,
That's
Scar
what you're
Mother.
talking about.
Yeah, Scar Mother. So basically, I usually run that. But Alpha Outclaw is better for Fistiaf because it's faster. Because if you don't have a trigger for the Scar Mother, you're gonna be slower to finish off the game. Alpha Outclaw just finishes the game faster against Fistiaf.
But
And
won't you
what?
have a trigger for your Scar Mother Vrina most
I
of the
would,
time?
yeah, but like if let's say I'm on turn 6, I wanna end the game. If I drop the Scar Mother, I mostly won't have a trigger because the triggers I'm gonna use to are going to be used to remove the verbal fishes.
Mm-hmm.
So like I want to have my Death Lotus or I want to have my Ice Shard to trigger her. And even if I trigger her, my Wild Claw will still have one extra damage because
Yes.
Scar Mother will be at 6 damage. So Alpha Wild Claw will be pushing in one extra damage, and I'm looking to end the game at turn 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm. So
And this
well,
deck does well against Fiora. It does well against Lysandra Trundle, and it does well against Fistiaf. Even though I lost against Fistiaf because I don't know, it's the deck is so broken. I lost against it, but this deck should, on paper, do well against Fistiaf. And I did misplay. I did misplay a couple of times, but on paper it should do well against Fistiaf.
what would you add in order to be better into the FTF in this deck? Would you take out and what would you put in?
The Ravine Landmark. I would take out the Scorched Earth and add Ravine Landmark, which deals 2 damage to everything after the round ends and heals you for 4. It removes their board, and if they drop Twisted Fate, it can remove Twisted Fate. So it's really nice.
But in the tournament setting, did you go for Scorcher because you expected to let through a lot of Ophidios decks or a lot of Targon decks?
I wanted to remove uh, formation if I get against them in Fiora. I was
Mm-hmm.
always banning Targon.
Alright.
Yeah, the only time I leave Aphelios up if they're running Lee Sin and Aphelios, like each in like a Lee Sin deck and an Aphelios deck. I would ban Aphelios over Lee Sin.
And why do you think
I would ban Lee Sin over Aphelios. Sorry.
uh, and why do you think this deck performed so well in the tournament?
Most people don't have experience playing against it. I guess. Like if you rewatch the tournament against, I'll give Watama's example. I don't know why I just keep remembering those games, but uh, they were the hardest to be honest. If you watch the casters, they when Watamai was attacking, I think on turn 5 or turn 6, uh, I wasn't so much advantage. His attack was so bad for him. It was like his attack should happen, but it was bad for him. Uh, but the casters had no idea that I'm actually winning this trade until the trade happened. So most people don't know how good this deck can be or how it functions. And a lot of people were banning it. I think it had like 40% ban ratio or 50%.
And what advice would you give to people that are trying this deck after seeing it perform both on ladder and in the tournament? What would be, let's say, top 3 advices that you would give people?
If you're playing against Fiora, don't drop your Bloodletter on 1 because Fiora will destroy it. If you're playing against Fistiaf, do not drop your Braum on 4 because they're gonna drop their Twisted Fate. You gotta kill it with your Avalanche. Uh, what other? Uh, Crimson is really good. Crimson Curator is really good. You gotta keep it alive as much as you can. Get some value. Also, your Basilic Bloodseeker is really can destroy your opponent if like it can remove a unit, and thanks to your Scar Mother, your other unit that's taking the damage will not die.
Yes, Cargrounds is really an awesome landmark in this deck, especially with Bloodseeker, and it is a new addition. We haven't seen this card competitive, and this is awesome in Runeterra because some cards that you would deem uncompetitive at the start of the expansion somehow find their way in the decks in the tournament setting, and that's awesome, I think.
Yeah, it depends on the line on the deck how it works together. And Basilic Bloodseeker works great with Scargrounds. It
Yeah.
works great with also Crimson Disciple. If you actually use Basilic on Crimson Disciple, you're also dealing 4 damage to the opponent's Nexus.
That sounds great. But we are nearing the end of this interview, and I would like to ask you who is helping you prepare, if you have someone helping you prepare, support you alongside the tournament preparation, because I do know there are some people that you might want to shout out, and this is the moment for them.
Usually BBMG, like mostly Mezome, Marcus. We usually talk a lot about the game. Sometimes I'm scrim with them. Sometimes I join on Salty Simon and Dalton while they're scrimming, and I just watch them play, and I just learn. Like I learn a lot by just watching.
Is that a tip that you would give people that want to get into the more competitive LOR scene? Also watch gameplay from high top end
Yeah,
players?
my way of learning is I watch the gameplay, but before they make the play, I make the play in my mind, and then I compare their play to my play. If you're just watching and not really focusing too much, you're not gonna get the experience. But my brain, I just create the gameplay. I'm doing what I wanna do. Then I see what they do, and I start comparing which one was better. Sometimes I'm doing the better play. Sometimes they're doing the better play.
Yeah, but as you say, I think this is kind of active watching because you also put yourself in the shoes of that person. And if you are playing the game with them, you are more likely to remember because you have a comparison model. Like you have your play on one hand, on the other hand, you have their play. And no matter what
Yeah,
is happening, you are going to remember if something was wrong or if something was bad or if both were right.
that's right. That's right. Also, if you watch your gameplay, like if you record your gameplay and watch it, it's very helpful. Like I found so many mistakes just from the OLS tournament. I found so many mistakes I made, which are small mistakes, but they could be game changing.
Yeah, awesome advice for anyone that is going to prepare for the tournament. And with that, we're going to end our interview. Then again, thank you for coming around, finally getting that win after many top cuts around as our own Matemai. And we do hope to
Fine.
see you around more often. Congratulations again, and ladies and
Thank you. Thank you.
gentlemen, see you next time.
Goodbye.